Guten Tag, NBC Youth. It is good to see you again. This is our daily Bible reading video. I don't know if you've noticed this, but we're gotten to the second half of our book. We're almost done with Mark's Gospel. A couple more weeks there, and then we're going to read a few pages about the crucifixion of Jesus to lead up into Easter. And after that, we read Paul's letter to Thessalonica, or his first letter to them. It's going well. We're progressing. Hopefully you're encouraged by God's word. Hopefully you're getting a lot from it, reading it daily. I got one question this week that we're going to bounce into to start. The question comes from Mark chapter 10, verse 35 through to 45. There's this scene where James and John are making a request of Jesus. They want to sit at his left and right hand side in glory. And this is what Jesus says to them. You don't know what you are asking. Jesus says, can you drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? And their response is, we can. They obviously really believe in themselves. And the question that we have is, why do they think that they can? And I think the answer is very simple. They have no idea what they are asking. When Jesus talks about the cup that he's going to drink and the baptism he is going to be baptized with, he's talking about experiencing the wrath of God. That's the image that comes up later. Jesus says, take this cup away from me, when he's talking to God, when he's praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. And the cup is God's anger at sin. And Jesus is going to drink it so that we don't have to drink it. He's going to take the punishment so that humanity doesn't have to take the punishment. And that's what he's going to endure. And they think that they can endure that too. But he says, no, you have no idea what you're asking for when you say that. So that's why I think they believe in themselves. Now, as we head into this new week of reading, we enter the final scene of Mark's Gospel. Mark has 3 geographical scenes. We talked about the 2 halves, the who is Jesus half and the what did he come to do half. It's also got 3 geographical locations. So the final geographical location is Jerusalem. Because when Jesus goes to Jerusalem, he's going to be tried before the council, and then he's going to be hung up on a cross, and then he's going to resurrect from the dead. And that all happens in Jerusalem. And today, on Monday, we read of when Jesus enters Jerusalem. So this is the last geographical scene. And a lot of the readings this week revolve around the question of Israel and whether Israel are still the people of God now that Jesus has come along. We see Jesus enter Jerusalem, which for the Israelites, that's their holy city. That's where the temple was built. And one of the first things that Jesus does there is he curses a fig tree because it bears no fruit. Now, it might seem really weird to us, but that's actually symbolic of Jesus saying Israel has dumped God by dumping Jesus. They're not interested in who Jesus is. In fact, they're going to end up crucifying him. And by doing that, they're rejecting the God who sent Jesus. And the fig tree is symbolic of Israel. So when Jesus says to the fig tree, bear no fruit anymore, he's saying to Israel, Israel, you bear no fruit anymore. It's a particularly heavy scene, and we find out when we read Romans that God hasn't completely turned his back on Israel. There are still Israelites who come to Jesus. We call them Messianic Jews now because they are Jews who believe in Jesus as the Messiah. The parable of the tenants at the start of chapter 12 is a story about Israel rejecting all of God's messengers and then eventually rejecting God's Son, and because of that they are cut off from the Father. And then in chapter 13 we get Jesus' description of the destruction of the temple, which was the center of Jewish worship. We have all of these kinds of readings about Jesus' relationship with Israel and the kind of redefining of God's people, not as a particular nation, as it was in the Old Testament, but as the people who do the will of God. We have the greatest commandment that comes to us in chapter 12. I'll just read it because it's really beautiful. Verse 28, chapter 12. One of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. Noticing that Jesus had given them a good answer, he asked him, of all the commandments, which is the most important? Jesus responds, the most important one is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul and with all of your mind and with all of your strength. The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. Now notice Jesus is asked for the greatest command, and he actually gives 2, because it's actually impossible to love God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength and not love the person next to you. That's what Jesus is saying. If you don't love the person next to you, then you don't truly love God. And this is what Israel has failed to do. That's why Jesus quotes the beginning. This is a reference to Deuteronomy, but he quotes the beginning. It says, "Hear, O Israel." Like, are you listening, Israel? Because they've forgotten who God is and they're not loving him because they don't love Jesus. So, yeah, NBC Youth, I want to encourage you to grow in your love and knowledge of God and to grow in your love and knowledge of everyone else. And hopefully this week you can be an encouragement to somebody, you can be a blessing. And I'll see you at Youth on Friday. God bless.